Hello, what's up guys? Mike Patrick, and today in this video guys, it's going to be a really good one. I'm going to title this one something along the lines of, I hate when people talk like this about socialism and other wisdom, because it's going to be a whole lot of nice little nuggets, I think, all throughout this video. Okay, as all my videos, sometimes you know what I'm saying, I feel like Moses. Sometimes I remember it's a story, I think, in the Bible where the Most High had chose Moses to do his job, and Moses was wondering how he was going to do it, because he didn't see himself as like a great speaker or anything like that. He didn't know if he could find the words to say. And with my videos, a lot of times, especially if it's a topic that I'm really passionate about, sometimes I'll be really anxious and I'll be wanting to get it just right. You know how you just want to get it just right? You want to articulate yourself just right so you don't be misunderstood. And you always feel like, you know, you can, if you're a perfectionist when it comes to speaking and getting your point across, you always feel like, you know, you could have said something a little bit better. You know what I mean? You could have got your point across a little bit better. And especially when your videos aren't scripted. Like my videos, I don't do any writing down anything, you know what I mean? Or so it's not like a speech. You know what I mean? So you know, you want to get it just right and get your point across. And sometimes I think I do better than other times, but I think I'm my hardest critic, you know what I mean? Other than people, I mean, you know, you're gonna always have some people who have an agenda to try to like discredit you, or to try not, or who just don't want to like you for different reasons. They might have their own agenda and their own reasons for why they don't like you or don't want to like you. So those people might be a little hard on you too. But for the most part, I think I'm probably my hardest, my toughest critic when it comes to um, getting my point across in my speech, and you know what I mean, and my delivery and things like that. Now, with that said, guys, socialism. I wanted to talk about this topic because it's something I touched on in the past, and I never revisited it. But I think it's something that identifies my one of my purposes, and you know, the type of things that the Lord wants to come out my mouth. You know what I mean? Um, and pushing forward here. So guys, I mean, plus not to mention, it's one of those taboo things. It's not talked about that much, right? You'll hear somebody throw the word around every once in a blue moon, and they never really get into it. And most of the time it's people who's trying to push their agenda, and they don't really talk about what socialism is, and how it's beneficial and why it would be beneficial. They'll just say something like socialism, and people want to push us towards socialism and bring socialism, and they'll say it in that manner with that attitude to try to persuade people into thinking that it's such a bad thing and it's such a far-fetched thing, and you know, and things like that, because that's their agenda, because they may be a capitalist, or they may inspire to be a capitalist. So, you know what I mean? If they see things going in a certain agenda, the reason why you might hear it board up a little bit more now, you also hear people talking about communism now, and they'll try to, like I said, they'll always try to make it seem like a bad thing. They'll try to use bad examples of things. It's just like anything else with a debate, or when somebody has an agenda. They're going to, you know what I mean, if you're trying to speak against something, you know what I mean, then you're going to find all the bad examples, or you're going to try to explain things in a way that's going to make something look bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't like me, you know what I mean, and things like that, you're going to persuade somebody in a way that's going to try to get them to not like me too, to see things their way, you know what I mean, as if that's the only way, you know what I mean, but that's just the way that they're putting it, you know what I mean. So that's why when it comes to communism and things like that, or socialism, you always try to hear people talk bad about China and things like that, and say, do you want to be like China, or we're being like China, you know what I mean? Because China is already supposedly our enemy and things like that. So when you associate it with somebody that's already supposed to be our enemy, then what? You know what I mean? It has that overall blanket energy of it's a bad thing. You know what I mean? It's something that our enemy is doing. You know what I mean? And we don't want to be like China. You see what I mean? But at the end of the day, guys, socialism basically, at least the way that I see it. You know what I mean? I'm not talking, because this is the thing too. Um, Something may be blanketed under a certain title, but it may not always be exercised the same way. So socialism may have been a thing in the past for different cultures or societies or countries, right? And perhaps it didn't end up, perhaps, I don't even know, I haven't researched it enough, you know what I mean? But perhaps there was some societies or some countries where socialism turned out to be a bad thing, or people will only want to point out what seemed to be bad about it, you know what I mean? Or the same thing with communism. But I'm sure there's always, just like anything else, there's always good and the bad, so it depends on what you want to try to harp on, you know what I mean? And then a lot of things don't be fact in the first place, you know what I mean? So but socialism, and my idea of socialism and where I could see it going and what my intentions for it would be, or is where people's basic needs are met, okay, and nobody has to live under fear or anxiety or pressure of how you are going to be able to take care the basic, what we consider the basic necessities in life, you know what I mean? And there's enough space and there's enough resources, you know what I mean, for people to all be able to have that, you know what I mean, to have the basic necessities. Now what happens is you have people who who, you know, a dog eat dog, in a dog eat dog world, right? You got people who might have certain status within a society, who might have certain material possessions and money and things like that, and a certain amount of power or whatever in society. Then therefore they want to keep that, you know what I mean? And it's not just a material and and monetary thing. Sometimes, a lot of times, and I want to get into this, it's just an ego thing. It's a perception of the world, and you want your perception to be right. Not only do you want to dominate monetarily, not only do you want to dominate in, from a societal standpoint, of an overview or outlook on who we think is bigger and better, and you know what I mean, and relevant and irrelevant and things like that, but you also want to dominate the perception and the ideas of people and the way people think and what we see reality um as, you know what I mean, and things like that, because that all shapes and molds how people perceive them, you know what I mean? If they want to be perceived like, you know what I mean, like a god or something like that, then they're going to want you to think how they want you to think, so you can have the outlook that they want you to have. You see what I mean? And now, with that said, perhaps we all fall short of that sometimes, or have. That's why I like to do videos like this, and I have to, in this world, in this society, we have to do things if we're conscious of it, and we're pure in our intent. You know what I mean? We have to do things to realign ourselves, because we're always being bombarded with the former of what I just said. So it's hard to try to be that pure person, you know what I mean, who just wants to be judged off the content of their character, and your self-worth and your worth to society and other people being that of the content of your character. You know what I mean? It's hard to stay aligned with that when every time you turn on the TV, there's subliminal, whether it's blatant or subliminal. Every time you get on your phone or your device, whatever, get on the internet, you go out in the world, there's always, like I said, whether subliminal or whether directly, indication of, you know what I mean, of egotistical things, you know what I mean, things that feed our ego, that's always telling us, is always, everything's information. So something's always telling us how we supposed to be, what we're supposed to be, and if you are this, then that means this, and you know what I mean, and things like that. So when you're bombarded with that, we're all always, you know, being flirted with to be in our ego, you know what I mean? And so, like, even with this, you could say to yourself, well, why do you care so much about this? Is it just to inflate yourself as some some hero, some person with this great idea of world peace and world equality and the utopia and things like that. See, I had to think about things like that myself. You see what I'm saying? Like, am I just, you know what I mean? If I was already a billionaire, you know what I'm saying? Would I feel this way? You know what I mean? Would I communicate this way? Or am I just thinking like this because well, I don't even want to say that, but let's just say if I wasn't a billionaire or something like that, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Oh, but you know, so you have to align and check yourself and ask yourself why you doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Having that pure intent. You know what I mean? And so I say to myself, I said, well, no, you know, even if I have, if I'm the richest man on the planet, I still feel like this is what's best for the planet and the life on this planet. You see what I mean? And it's with that said, it's not to say that you have to give away. It's bigger than giving away all your money per se. You see what I'm saying? That's why I said, you know, if I did have that type of money, I would want to be put into a position where I can affect the collective, as opposed to I'm gonna give because that's just who I am. You know what I mean? Even when I don't have much, I'm always looking to give. When the Father puts it on my heart, if I have something that I can give to somebody, because there's always somebody doing, you know, that has less than you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always in a position of to be able to give to people. You know what I mean? But I said, even if I had billions and billions, would I just continue to just give people? Yeah, I said, yeah, I would probably frequently always be giving to somebody in some type of way, always helping people out. But I said the best way that I could help somebody out is to be in a position where I can change policy. You see what I'm saying? See, that's the thing about people having, like, we can have a bunch of billionaires in the world, but if nobody's really having the ability to change policy, you see what I'm saying? And these billionaires do that. They call lobbyists. So what happens is you have politicians. They get paid a certain amount of money from lobbyists to push the people that have a lot of money agenda. You see what I'm saying? And so, but the problem is that the people with a lot of money sometimes, or a lot of times, they don't really want to do what's best for the collective. You see what I'm saying? So hence, we don't have things like socialism and things like that here. We have capitalism. You know what I mean? Because people just want to keep on capitalizing. And then you would say to yourself, well, it's way more people that doesn't have a whole lot of money and material possessions and things like that than it is, hold on, excuse me, than it is that do. So you know what I mean? So why wouldn't it be a system that benefits the collective more so? You know what I mean? You ask yourself that question. That's a good question. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It needs to be answered. Like, why is that? Um and a lot of it has to do with, like I said, going back to ego, because a reason why I could prevail too is because, like I said, if I can push my ideas and my perceptions on to you, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with this. I don't want to make it seem like it's a bad thing. Somebody pushing their perceptions and ideas on to you. It's where it comes from. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. It's where it comes from, and how does it benefit and help people? You know what I mean? And things like that, versus not benefiting and helping people. You see what I'm saying? So, because right now I'm pushing my ideas and my beliefs and things onto you, and my perception onto you, but it comes from a pure intent and a pure place. You see what I'm saying? And a good place that will benefit the majority. You know what I'm saying? If not the all. You know what I'm saying? Like that. But like I said, so what happens is you have people, a very small number of people, who, you know, do what they have to do to influence others to do their bidding. You see what I'm saying? To in turn influence all of us. You know what I'm saying? And then what happens is, like I said, you say to yourself, well, you don't have people, a bunch of billionaires, right? Most of the population in the country or in the world is not billionaires, right? So how can this be upheld? Well, it could be upheld because you have a lot of brainwashed people who they may aspire. That's why it's always given to you. Things are always presented to you in a way that you can do it too. You can do it too. You can do it too. And every now and then, you know, in comparison to how the population, how many people it is, you bring a certain amount of people up and dangle them as, you know, like puppets or like a trophy or something, as this is what you can do too. So you have either people that are already in position, you know what I mean, to have a lot, who don't want things to change and want to appear to, you know, live like gods and things like that, and live a certain way, while the rest of us live another way. You see what I'm saying? And then you have a whole lot more people though that have been brainwashed by these type of people and propaganda that are pushed by them in some form or fashion, who aspire to be like these people, who are under the spell of thinking that they can do that too, or they can get there too. And even if, but the point is, even if you do, you know what I mean, you're just one out of every however many thousand, hundreds of thousands of people. So even if you do aspire to get there, and you do get there, you see what I'm saying, like that still doesn't solve the problem of mass poverty. You see what I'm saying? And mass unhappiness and unfulfillment and all the ills that this type of culture and this type of society and the way things have been set up, you know what I mean, have brought upon people. Now you say to yourself, um why is it, I always say to myself, man, like when I had started working and things like that, and I realized I just couldn't be happy at a certain job or particular jobs and things like that, and I just couldn't find certain fulfillment, you know what I mean, things like that, and realize, and even when I thought I knew what I wanted to do, like being younger, when I thought I knew what I wanted to do, I realized I knew it then, and I definitely know it now. But even if those things, even if I had fulfilled the little dream, 'cause you know how it is when you're a kid, and you might not really know what you want to do with your life, but it's that thing where you gotta start being prepped on, you know, you start getting asked in school, you got to start trying to form an idea of what you want to be when you grow up. So you just got to say something, you know what I mean. You sometimes you just, you know, oh, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a dentist, or I want to be a cop. You see what I'm saying? Stuff like that, you know what I mean. But you know, a lot of times you kind of just saying stuff, and you might have some level of interest in it, but it's not really you, and it's not really what you want to do, and you really figure that out as you grow up, you know what I mean, and things like that. And so sometimes you could feel unfulfilled in this world where you feel like, you know, you've been made to always feel like you have to be doing something, and you have to, you know what I mean, and because and the point is, you know, yeah, I guess you will want to have to, we all put here to do something, but everybody niche is not necessarily, and their calling is not necessarily what society would would deem, you know what I mean, as success a lot of times, and things like that, or society doesn't always have a place for it or a level of respect for it. You know what I'm saying? Which makes it harder for those people and within a certain type of society. Um, Let me see. Um, Man, I think I didn't drop some jewels already. I'm gonna see or enough already, but I'm gonna keep going. I feel like it's more. But I feel like you know, when socialism is talked about in that regards, and then in a lot of ways, guys, we already into socialism, and that's another thing that certain people are scared of, and that's why they starting to throw the word around a little bit more, and they trying to say it with the real negative connotation. They're not getting into what it is. Remind you of that. They're just saying it, and saying it with a certain type of energy to make it seem negative, because mind you, these are people that these are a lot of these people are very narcissistic, egotistical people, who where just because they feel a certain way about something and they say something a certain type of way, that means that that's how we all supposed to feel. You see what I'm saying? They're the influencers that matter. You see what I mean? And so if they say that ain't what it is, then that ain't what it is, and this ain't cool. See what I mean? It's all propaganda. It's all ideas, and it's all influence from different people. it's not necessarily a reality that has to be set in stone unless enough of us catch on to it and believe in it, and then we go along with it, and then that's what it is. You know what I mean? So the minute we change who we looking up to, you know what I'm saying, and who we agreeing with about everything, and change our morals and values and principles in some ways, not all, some things that the collective that we stand on that are good, that should remain. But it's a lot that is stupid, and that is our culture, and it's like, look, and it just keeps us in prison and enslaved. You know what I mean? And degenerate in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? We just need to let it go and reevaluate it. You know what I mean? But when you keep having certain people being pushed in front of you and trying to uphold these things, you see what I'm saying? Then it makes it hard for you guys to make that change, or for us to make that change. You see what I'm saying? It needs to be made. But so socialism doesn't make you. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So socialism doesn't make you like. That's what they'll try to do. They'll try to make you feel like if you a man and you had these type of ideas. A lot of men are scared to talk like this because you don't want to be considered a punk, a pansy, a man that don't want to go out and do this and provide this and do that and all that type of stuff. And we already know that's what it all comes with. So even though you feel this way, a lot of you guys, you don't have the courage. And a lot of, like I said, we all have our calling. I don't even want to say, because I don't want to make it seem like that, like you don't have the courage. But like, we all just have our calling. I think I've been put in a certain position and things like that where I can do stuff like this and get away with it. And I'm sure I get judged. I ain't gonna say without being judged, but I can do things like this and speak for people. I can be a voice for this type of thing. You know what I mean? Um, but what happens is, you ask yourself, guys, if everything was so great, and if this is what the majority wanted, the way that things had been and have been in the recent past and things like that, you know what I mean? Why is it always so much unhappiness and unfulfillment? And then all people keep on trying to do is sell to you an idea that if you just make more money, if you just get more, yeah, it'll make life easier. I'm not gonna lie. If you get in the circumstances that we live under, that we have lived under in the recent past, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you that having less money is gonna necessarily make you happier than having more, but I ain't gonna tell you that necessarily having more is gonna make you happier than having less. It's a lot of other factors. It's a lot of other factors. You see what I'm saying? You can have all the money in the world, but you could be alone. You know what I mean? What if you got all the money in the world, but you lost somebody that was real close to you, that you can never get back, that no amount of money can bring that person back? You know what I'm saying? And things like that. There was a situation that just happened recently where I'm not going, because I don't even want to get it, but get into all these types of things. But it was a situation really recently in the hip hop culture, where somebody just came across a whole lot of money. You see what I'm saying? But they lost what I know what was then did something that money will never be able to replace or buy. Now, I don't know what their relationship was with this particular person, but for how most of our relationships are with certain people in our lives, the money won't be able to replace the loss. You see what I mean? And so things like that, and the reason we're like that mental health is such a big issue and things like that now, guys, is because some of us have evolved and are evolving, and that's why, if we have to live in this type of society, or the type of society that we had in the recent past, the reason why some of us, you ask yourself, like I said to myself, I almost used to kind of envy how somebody could stay at a job for like 30, 40 years or something and just retire. You know what I mean? I used to say to myself, what's wrong with me? Why I just can't do that? Why I just can't, I don't have, you know what I mean? And a lot of these people a lot of the millennials on down, especially Gen Z, and especially the generation that's after them, you know what I'm saying? They are not the type of people, the society, that type of society is not going to hold up no way. So you might as well start doing what needs to be done now, because the children that's being born today is not going to grow up to be the type of people that's going to go work at somebody's job, or be trying to hustle and hustle up money, and always trying to hustle, and I'm a hustler and all that. That ain't, man, half it. Honestly, I don't know what the numbers are, so I'm a probably low ball, or you know what I mean, maybe I'm high balling, or maybe I'm right there and I'm pretty accurate. I'm gonna say 50% of the kids is under like 20 something now are probably like on some scale of the autistic spectrum, or like ADHD, or all of them. You know what I'm saying? And probably other things that you could probably diagnose. You know what I'm saying? Where people are just different. You see what I'm saying? So if let's just say the majority of society is changing in a way that it's not going to be plausible to think that they're going to be able to live the same way that with a lot of people are trying to hold on to now. You see what I'm saying? A lot of older people now, or even some people who somewhat young, but they still got old ideas because you was raised by certain people. So a lot of the ideas, you gotta think, I'm at an age where I'm young enough, at the same time I'm just old enough where, like, if I didn't have my own mind and things like that, the way I was raised and things, and you're not blaming the people that raised you or nothing like that. They are who they are, and they were brought up in the world they were brought up in, and so it makes sense for them to have the beliefs and ideas and things that they have, you know what I mean, from their experience and things like that. And it has to do with a level of comfortability and things like that, you know what I mean? So you're gonna go with what you know. But if things are changing, it's changing. And to try to act like you don't realize that things have changed or are changing, that's, at the same time, that's very selfish, and that's setting people up for failure too. Because like I said, if you're trying to um, push these children in a direction that uh, that was for, say, older generations, then you're gonna have a bunch of people. That's what you have now, a bunch of what you consider dysfunction. You know what I'm saying, in society, because you have a society that is shaped and molded, you know what I mean, and blueprinted, as you could say, and built for a bunch for people who are not conducive to it. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to make society, now society, people are different, so you have to make the society different. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, man, like I said, I think it was some Jews in this one, like I said. But what happens is it's your ego, and then you always have people that still trying to hold on to certain things, and it makes sense. And then I used to say to myself, I don't even know why it would be so important to people, other than just their ego and needing to be right. You know what I mean? Because you have that with older people, right? You got some people who don't have any clue on what's going on in the world, you know what I mean, on the big scale and things like that, and are still stuck in the 80s or the 90s and things like that. But they can talk to you or look at you, you know what I mean, or have the energy towards you, like like they know everything just based on their age. But it's like you might have stopped learning 30, 40 years ago. You see what I'm saying? And but you know what I mean? But then, just because you might be a certain amount of years older than me, you get to talk to me like you know what's going on, and like I don't. You know what I mean? Um and I'm not saying that we can't learn from each other, but my point is some people just got just have egos that it's no reasoning with them. You know what I mean? Um and so I forgot where I was going before I just said that, but the point is, oh yeah, so you know you got people to hold on, you got egos and older people and things like that, so they want to hold on to a certain way of thinking. If for nothing else, if you older and you know you probably going to check out of this world sooner than later, you know what I'm saying? Then what difference would it make to you? You know what I mean? Other than to try to you know, set up the future, you know, set the future up, or try to help who you can reach out and touch, and trying to help them towards the future that's meant for them, not the future that you want for them or that you wish was for them, or that would make you comfortable and make you feel like you know what you talking about and you know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of it has to do too, because, which I can understand, which is still kind of bad intention, but I understand it, is people want to hold on to what they want to hold on to for their children. So if they feel like, if they already have a certain position or you know, status or position, and feel like they're benefiting the way that they feel like they want to benefit, in the world that was or is, whatever, however you want to say that, you know what I mean, then they want to believe, they want to leave that status and position to their children. You see what I'm saying? They don't want their children, they don't want the uncertainty of a whole new world, and their children can't benefit from what they feel like they benefited from. You see what I mean? So that it's a lot of that too, of trying to hold on. Then the children would latch on to that because the children have the egos too. Of, you know, well, if the world changed this type of way, then people won't look at me this way. I won't, you know what I mean? Things like that. But I just think it's a better world, and a lot of healing starts to get done once we realize that people have evolved. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that these people are bad people or really have to be. They're only dysfunctional in a society that refuses to work for them. You see what I'm saying? That's it. No different than as things change, it's gonna be a lot of people. If they don't want to change with the world, then they'll be considered dysfunctional in a new world. You see what I'm saying? So nobody's exempt from it. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean, in a new world where when you have something like socialism, at least you would be taken care of in a sense until you can get yourself together, get your mind together, and accept the world that you're in. Now you at least you won't have to worry about being on the street, because basic needs, like, you'll have a place to live. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to worry about starving. You'll have food. You see what I'm saying? Your basic needs, we can do that. People try to make it seem like this unrealistic thing. It can be done. People don't want it to be done. That's why it's not, you know what I'm saying? That's why it ain't completely like that yet. People don't want it to be like that. You know, you got certain people who don't want it to be like that, because then it will be an even playing field. And a lot of people are so empty really on the inside and really don't have no real self-worth. So they feel like if you make everything empty, then who am I? The ego. Who am I now? I'm just like everybody else. Nothing distinct, nothing makes me better now. You see what I'm saying? Other than, you know what I mean, now people will start judging people off the content of their character, and who you think is better and things like that. You will judge that based off of the content of a person's character. How kind of how it is now. It's people now who don't have a whole lot of material things and money or a certain status in the world and things like that, who, you know what I mean, who still, people still have a certain level of respect and admiration for them no matter what they doing. You see what I'm saying? So hopefully this was a good video, guys. A lot of Jews here. Share this one out. All right, guys. You know, those who get preview to this video and this type of information, share this one, because I think it's a lot of Jews in this. All right, peace.